U.S. President Trump is defending his decision to pull the U.S. out of Syria. He posted on Twitter, "Does the USA want to be the policeman of the Middle East?" and asked, "Do we want to be there forever?" He goes on to say that Russia, Iran, Syria, and many others are not happy about the U.S. leaving. And he says, "I am building by far the most powerful military in the world. ISIS hits us, they are doomed." But Russian President Vladimir Putin is refuting that, saying Russia is happy the U.S. is pulling troops out of Syria. Speaking at his annual news conference, Putin said he agrees that ISIS is defeated in the war-torn country. Putin has long held that U.S. presence in Syria was illegitimate because it wasn't vetted by the UN Security Council. Bessma Momani joins me now. She's a political science professor at the University of Waterloo. Bessma, good morning. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
So when you heard that announcement yesterday from the president, and it was an interesting way to discuss or create some sort of foreign policy on Twitter, what went through your mind? What are the implications of the U.S. pulling out of Syria?
Well, it's still too early to know what the implications are going to be. Look, it wasn't a huge force. We're talking about, some estimates are 2. I've heard 4,000 from some on the inside, talking about that numbers are actually higher. Special operations forces. So these are not, front-facing soldiers, if you will. They tend to be providing logistics support, intelligence, certainly. They are definitely calling in, airstrikes that the Americans are still dominating. But, we're going to have to see what happens as a result. I think many are fearful that the designed plan here is that Erdogan is now going to initiate, that's the president of Turkey, is going to initiate an incursion into northern Syria to fight the Kurdish rebels that have been backed by the Americans now that the Americans are out of the way. And if that's the case, the fear is that ISIS will kind of regroup in the absence of anybody fighting them, and with the Turks and Kurds fighting each other, that ISIS would become strengthened. So there are a lot of worries, particularly among analysts and certainly some American lawmakers as well.
And as you say, a lot of worry on behalf of the Kurds.
Yeah, absolutely. They feel very abandoned. The Kurds have gotten mixed messages this week. But all in all, I think for many Kurds, they're going to say this is kind of the way history has often treated them. They often get supported initially and a lot of high hopes that this will lead into some kind of autonomy or self-determination. And in the end, they get sacrificed. And that's how many, I think, Kurds are going to be reading this, and correctly so, by Trump's decision.
Is the president right? Has ISIS been defeated in Syria?
Well, on that front, definitely not. I mean, the numbers from, the Americans are as high as 30,000, similar to the UN. I've seen some analysts put the number closer to 7,000. I mean, they've certainly lost territory. I mean, they hold small villages and towns. But, the map that we kind of saw paraded around at their heyday is no longer. And they've certainly lost a lot of territory, clout, and financing. But they're not gone. And so, that's going to be a challenge if they regain, if it becomes sort of the ISIS 2.0 that people worry about. That's not going to be good for Trump and the Americans, who, again, boasted quite loudly that they were defeated.
Yeah, and Vladimir Putin, again, praising that move by the U.S. earlier today. Does this leave a power vacuum, Bessma?
Well, not really. I mean, there's enough players or cooks in the kitchen here, to be honest, in Syria. The Russians are there, the Turks are there, certainly the Iranians are there, and the Israelis have a vested interest. And so there are plenty of regional powers inside Syria. But it does, I think, now complicate things, because much of the prevention of the Turkish assault on northeast Syria was because of those American soldiers pretty much embedded with the Kurdish forces. Now that they're gone, we're going to see, I think, a full-on conflict between the Turks and the Kurds.
Bessma Momani, appreciate you being with us. Talk to you soon.